also have enough air to...
It is intellectually engaging.
And you can only become a leader when there are problems.
I like that.
The same applies to Rwanda, Burundi. So what are we federating?
Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
But at the moment, we would rather deal with what we have, make it right.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell him Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Deeply incisive.
The different political forces that we have in the country, in the country, we don't seem to really have achieved that minimum political consensus over certain things.
Authentically symbolic and insightful. Behind the Headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odongotho. All on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
A very good evening and welcome to this edition of Behind the Headlines this Wednesday, the 6th of April 2022. My name is Charles Odongotho and we have a packed room, a packed panel already here seated, and may the debate begin. And this week, it's still not a very good week, if you like. Of course, the nation is still mourning the passing of an illustrious son and a man who climbed the ladders of politics and went up to being the third in the country, in the chain of command in the country, the Honorable Jacob Oulanyah. We are going to be making brief comments. I'm going to allow the panel here to make brief comments about him. This afternoon, the body of Jacob Oulanyah, the late now, arrived at his ancestral home in Lalogi in Omoro district in Acholi sub-region. And burial is set for this Friday, which is also now, as we now know, will be a public holiday. And we will be giving you some other information or updates as we get them, including that declaration of a public holiday, the official one. But we are also going to be discussing, our major topic is going to be the escalating commodity prices. That's what we are going to be looking at. We have economists in the room, we have a minister in the room, and then we will, towards the end, also be touching on what next for Uganda, after the climax and the finalization of the end of the Dubai Expo 2020. And there is a Minister of ICT in the room, but let me start now to properly introduce the persons who are going to be having these discussions this evening. We have the Honorable Godfrey Kabyanga Baluku, who is Minister of State in charge of national guidance in the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. Honorable Minister, you're most welcome to this maiden appearance.
Thank you, my friend Odongotho.
Good. Next to him is Dr. Fred Muhumuza, who is a frequent, who makes frequent appearances on the show to share with us ideas on economics and especially how it is playing out in the market. And he is an economics lecturer at Makerere University. Dr. Fred, you're most welcome. I like the red.
Thank you very much and welcome everybody. It's part of the colors of the day, so it's part of my morning ceremony. Jacob was my speaker at university, so
you belong to that group.
We go that far.
That group I think we need to profile you because you are not very quiet in your silence in town. That group, your group, yes. Mao, Jacob, You know, that group, I think, Frank Nigel of LDC, Adolf Mwesije, Katuntu. That group, I think, as media, we need to profile that group and see where you actually are. Because from following what is going on, you have had an impact on this nation. Next to Dr. Fred is Honorable Omara Paul, who is MP for Otuhe County in Lango Sub-Region. He sits on the Budget Committee of Parliament. Honorable Paul, you're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
Good. Next to him is the Honorable Ojara Mapenduzi, Member of Parliament, Bardege Laibi in Gulu City, and he sits on the he actually chairs the Committee of Local Government in Parliament. Ojara is one of the panelists on this show. You're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you, my brother Charles.
Good. And finally, saving the last, you know, for the best. And the Council, Sarah Birete, is back. And last week she was not in town. But no small achievements. Sarah is now a PhD. Now you can comfortably and officially call her a doctor. And she achieved her doctorate in humanities from London.
From, yes, and the Commonwealth University.
London, Commonwealth Universities in London. Congratulations, Sarah, and we really are happy for that.
Thank you, and good evening, viewers.
Good.
Dr. Sarah.
Yeah,
Dr. Sarah.
It
starts now.
Yes.
And here.
Yeah. She will take some time to get used to me. Think you're calling somebody else.
Now there is Fred, the other side, the both is well balanced.
Yes.
You know? Let me start with you, Sarah. We are going to do this. Last week we had a discussion, a more comprehensive discussion about the man, about the person of, and what the legacy that he leaves. And of course, the week before when I was away, you also did the same when he had just been announced, you know, dead. But, you know, there are so many things that have been said about him, about the late Olanya. What exactly do you want to remember about him?
Well, I think his is a life well lived. He served humanity well in places where he stepped. Right from Makerere, when you hear the stories from those who were with him. Then in Parliament, in the LRA peace process. But I think what has been more touching to me was the moving tribute by Honorable Laura Kanushu, one of the representatives of people with disabilities.
Yes, I remember that.
She, you know, the way she narrated the humility of the Right Honorable Jacob Olanya, I think to me that's what summed up the character, the man that Jacob was. You know, we live in an era where people are full of egos, where people have, you know, the rivalrism everywhere they want to be seen. Even having one bodyguard, you drive, you throw all citizens off the road, the way VIPs drive on our roads, on pavers, throwing everybody off the road. That kind of a rivalrism, that kind of pompous, you know, feeling as if you are no longer human. I think he was a different breed of leadership that is very scarce in our country. And I wish people can emulate that kind of humility as they serve the people.
Honorable Mapenduzi, is that kind of humility that Sarah is talking about something that is taught? Can it be just, you know, do we nurture our leaders to embrace it? Or is it something that someone grows up with, and so it is an effort in futility to demand it?
Well, it has a lot to do with the kind of background, the kind of society you come from, the kind of family. When you visit his father, you will know the kind of family the Honorable Jacob came from. The father is a very thorough, gentleman, a disciplinarian, and was also a leader. But you very well know the kind of society we come from, where children are brought up by the community and taken a lot more seriously, so that when you become an adult, whatever you do has a positive impact on the community. So the Honorable Jacob was, he grew up in that kind of environment. And right from his early school days, even those who went with him to Laibi College and other institutions of learning would tell you the same story. So it's about how he was brought up, how he looked at the society, but also it's about how somebody understands the world. Yesterday I told Parliament that the Honorable Jacob was not, never cared about titles and positions. He never cared about that. He would always want
in the last campaign, he liked talking about, to especially his mobilizers,
exactly,
the leaders without titles.
Exactly.
And he kept saying it to many MPs. I've been talking to many of them from the vigils I attended at home and in Parliament. And different MPs, testifying and saying that was quite different.
So
leaders
for him,
without titles.
For him, leadership was about responsibility. He always, he never hesitated to do the best whenever given an opportunity. I saw a lot of that in his early days as a member of Parliament, the kind of sacrifices they were making to go to meet Joseph Kony, the kind of, contributions they would make, and that helped in shaping him. And so today we talk about a great man who gave his entire life to work for his country.
Okay.
Because as you're well aware, he, a lot of his time was in politics, trying to make a contribution.
Yeah. Honorable Paul, it's quite telling that if you listen to some of the things, like I was watching this morning at the National Funeral Service in Kololo, and his OBs from Laibi College, they kept talking about so many big things that he was doing, and he was not talking about them. And again, we live in a world where you politicians are so pompous, you are so showy. I'm sorry to say that. And even when you do, a politician contributes 100,000 and brings camera people, pressmen, some of this to cover it. And this guy was thinking about a center for e-learning and all that with his colleagues, and the media was not even knowing about them, and yet media is all around him all the time. How do we? Is that how we should accept that?
By the way, including the children, the orphans, he was, sponsoring.
Yes.
Hundreds of them. Nobody knew.
Yeah.
But of course, for some of us who were close, we knew what he was doing and the support he was giving to. So you are right.
Yes, Honorable Paul.
Thank you, Charles. It's a big challenge, really, to talk about the late Jacob. First, he was my very close friend, and we had moments where we would dance together. Both of us loved traditional dances.
Oh boy, you guys love dancing.
We love dancing.
Yeah.
And I had known Jacob for almost 33 years. I was at the university with him as well, although they were ahead of us at the time when he was the Speaker of the House. And what you're talking about is actually central to his character. He was a very, very humble man. And a well and very accomplished lawyer. But above all, the man was very dignified and also had a lot of integrity. And you know, when he talked about corruption, he was actually living it by example. He wasn't a corrupt man, and yet he held very high position. Being number 3 in the country is not simple. The temptation for you to be attracted to corruption is always around the corner, but he demonstrated that in private. He would have private conversation with you. And as young and new parliamentarians, many of us came from a background of corporate leadership. And we thought you would come to Parliament and overnight you should be a chair of a committee, running a lot of things there. But he would call you aside and said, you know what, you need to understand how Parliament works. I look at you, you're a leader without a title. Understand it, be influential in your committee, your leadership will eventually come up, and that would be something great. But one thing which I learned as well, you know the character of a man or a woman when he or she is under pressure. And during the speaker's elections and campaigns, many of us who were on his side were providing some strategies for us to undertake, but he would say no to that. If it's against the rules that were put in place by SEC, he would say, that one, I want to do it. If something would go that would undermine his opponent, he would say no. So he played the politics with a lot of integrity. And we learned that when you're competing with somebody, it's not your enemy. You just have to present your case in a very solid manner, and you would be elected on the basis of your strength. I think that was great. And yesterday, I think the Speaker Emeritus, Right Honorable Kadaga, also made statement to that effect of his leadership. And I wish he had come to that house 9 months when Gio was still there. It would have really made a big difference. The other one, which is very, very critical, is I think the entire country had understood him. And he challenged us from day one to say, we are going to have a debate in the House about the Uganda we want. Which he said, I will dedicate one week. Let's come in the House here, because this country is big enough for all of us. Let's deal with the issues that divide us, and the issues, and we find some convergence and commonality, so that we really build together this fragile democracy, and and move towards a better Uganda. It is so unfortunate that we never had the opportunity to have that debate. And so yesterday we urged the Speaker of Parliament to make sure that the 11th Parliament have the opportunity to have that conversation, because that was one of the things that Gio wanted to do. Okay. So we look forward to having a better Uganda, really, because after every election we fight. The guns should not be on the street, neither should soldiers be on the street. We should also respect the authority in this country. So there's a lot of issues that we really need to have a conversation about.
Okay. Fred, from the university days, and then you are into several other diverse areas of exploiting your potential. What did you like about the man Jacob Oulanyah when he was as a politician?
Yeah, thank you. I think he set the pace for us at the university. We found him in the struggle. This was a time of structural adjustment program, and government budgets were being scaled down. So they used to pay university students money, we would call boom.
Boom, yeah.
Now that boom had already been taken away by the time we came in, and there had been struggles to that effect. But now the main thing...
Is this, maybe just for clarification, sorry to interrupt you, did you study with him when he was doing his first degree, the
agricultural economics, yes.
Or when he was doing law?
It was the agricultural economics.
Okay.
So there was that struggle now when government, and they also used to give university students books, which they would go away with after you've done your 3 years. But they were really useless books, because they were more or less for seniors, for A-level, rather than university. So the government came up with an initiative to say, we will not give you the books so that we can buy more relevant books for university, but because they are expensive, you will not take them away, so that we can build a book bank. You can borrow, you can read, and leave them behind. And I think that had been agreed to. But now the books were very few. I remember being in an economics class of 600 people, but we had 10 copies of Todaro, which was one of the reference materials. So one of our sides was, arguments was, the book bank is bankrupt. When are you bringing the real books? So these were some of the things really underlining the mobilization he and the chairman Ma were bringing through to us. And we found them relevant. And so he rallied us along those specific lines, which still speaks to the issues of today. I want to believe, even if he hadn't done the law to add on, which is the degree most people got to know him more, he was also going to be very, very assertive and strong and impactful on the economic side. If he had pursued and practiced the bachelor, he had done the Bachelor of Science in agricultural economics. So he has been there to mobilize us for these years, and we got to know him as young people. He was, I think, in his second or third year, and really led us and gave us the inspiration to look forward as university students at that time to say, it's not just reading, we must be people who purpose to impact society positively.
You teach students at the same university. I need you to be bold. Do you, when you compare your lot and the lot that now comes out of university, incidentally even through your hands, which quality is better?
Of course, quality, as you say, we were a crop of people who went through the tanur, as they would say. We didn't have the kind of good schools and teachers of the day. 80% of my A-level I had to teach myself. I had no school, there is no school I can refer to and say this was I'm an old boy A-level for that particular school, except one school that accepted me to go and sit my exams there. But the bulk of my A-level I taught myself. So we were self-driven compared to the current crop of students, and you really find that very difficult to pull them to be self-assertive, to be exploratory in their own nature, which is what you'd expect out of a university setting. So my students, that's my contribution to them. I'll tell them I have no notes, and quite often I'm at variance of a requirement that you should have a course outline. I tell them, no, I'm not very sure I will follow a course outline because my teaching is determined by what comes up as relevant issues. Russia and Ukraine clash, that is going to become our subject. What are the economic implications? So how am I supposed to foresee what is going to happen ahead? Right now, I've gone through all the inflation. I want to believe my students are so well versed with these issues that they can delve into them, go into the literature and read, Google and find the relevant things, and write you a very good policy statement. That's my kind of engagement. But it comes from that background, which I want to believe many of the students today who are exposed to teachers, Google, I don't know what, TikTok, pamphlets, you know, they are more kind of structured to be fed, unlike us who really had to scavenge. So I think that's the differences in quality, and Jacob was there to guide us on how to explore more, besides the economics, the social life, the political life, all those realms of life. It was really glad and nice to be at university at that time.
Good. Honorable Kabianga, you are in charge of national guidance. You know, the mention has been made, and variously so, even in Parliament, about integrity, about a man, Olanya, who you have no anything to throw at him in terms of a scandal as far as finances of government is concerned, in a country where no less than the president has said, my people are thieves, you know, and how do we take this kind of example to the nation, to the young people, so that we start with value-based, you know, mindset change to have a better Uganda?
Thank you very much. I think among the panelists, I might be the most unfortunate because I have known him for the shortest time.
Sorry.
For only 8 months. When he was joining university, I was getting out of university. So I didn't get chance to know him much. And when I joined politics, like my brother Mapinduzi, I joined politics at local level. And at local government, it's very, very rare to interact with the Speaker of Parliament, but you interact with ministers and the rest. But the little time...
Actually, by the way, 3 years ago, he had started that interaction. I remember being invited by Parliament, and I moderated twice in 2018 and 2019. Actually, Ramadan Gobi.
Yes.
The last one we did, I think, was in 2019, where Olanya had started, and they were in the process of formalizing it, that there should be a day for local governments meeting Parliament and the leadership, and there was a debate. I remember I moderated a whole day's discussion with him and Ramadan Gobi. So,
and that's why we who have background of local government now started liking him, because we are detached from Parliament completely, because we have also our own parliaments down there. But he was an inspirational man. The first time, obviously, I got close to him, apart from being in Parliament, is when he was inducting us as ministers in Kololo. And you know, the general view of ministers was Parliament is harassing us. And he came knowing that. So he told us, look, honorable ministers, Parliament is not harassing you. You are harassing yourselves. You come to Parliament to answer just a simple question, and you have written 13 pages. And you are reading to Parliament, answering a simple question from a member of Parliament. These questions of national importance.
What they have written for you.
Exactly, they have written. Actually, said they have written for you 13 pages. And you are reading and you are taking 1 hour to answer just one question. He said, you bore Parliament. That if you are a minister, if you want to ask a question, 6 minutes. If it is a comprehensive problem, 13 minutes. And then, before you come, read that paper about 10 times. Exactly. But you can't come to Parliament and you are glued on the paper like this.
You are editing there, and then exactly. As you are reading, it is new to you.
Exactly. You are not even checking your audience whether they are looking at you. By the time you complete, the audience is already switched off. Bored. So bored, and therefore you didn't answer. And you know the way he was talking, it would really inspire us who are new. And he said, please, if you want me as a speaker to protect you, be eloquent, so that people can pick interest in what you are saying. And I will protect you very, very well. And I admired him. And automatically, you know, he has one of the characters I love, because for you, Odongotho, who have worked together now for 8 months, no stress. You can't stress me, not at all. Don't come to stress me, not at all. I don't have that time. I'm enjoying my life. I've been appointed a minister. I should enjoy my what? My life.
As you work.
Exactly, as I work. I'll do my work, you do yours. Don't stress me at all. Even when we're in this panel, you will not stress me. We are coming here to discuss national what? Issues. But if you think you are coming here to grill me, to do what? Why should you grill me? We are all leaders. We should give answers to what the problem is. And you know, that was Jacob.
Are you dodging the hot seat?
No, I'm not dodging, but that's what I'm telling you. That was Jacob.
You know, Honorable, you know, Sarah is saying that tongue in cheek. You know that seat, many people fear it, where you are seated. It is the special one out of all the rest, and it is reserved for those who should be grilled.
Actually, Sarah told me it is a hot seat, and I want really, by the time I leave, it will be a cool seat. But you know, that's what Jacob is, and I loved him for that. And but when he died, I directed my DMU guys to collect all his speeches and put them in some file. And I've listened to all of them.
Wow.
And I felt so good.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want to make a file for them and probably give them to Parliament. Because today I saw the courts. There is a book which is on records.
Yeah.
So as my digital, our digital media unit will correct all the speeches and probably even get flash discs, and we give them to Member of Parliament to keep listening to those speeches. They are so inspirational.
The Hansard of Parliament stores all those records. So
exactly.
I think you will be in very good hands if you. I think if you contact, I think Chris Obore, the communications director of Parliament.
Yes.
But I was, I think I was listening to the Honorable Bright Ramirama. Maybe your team should also locate the speech. I think 2 speeches of the Honorable Jacob Olanya. One must have been in 2003 or 5, between that time, when I'm told as chairperson of the Legal and Parliamentary Committee, he made a speech of about 18 or so minutes on the need to amend the Constitution. I'm told it is one of those that someone needs to listen to.
Yes.
And then another one must have been also around the same period when he was talking about, I think,
Sale of UCB.
Sale of UCB. I'm told he made a statement of over 20 minutes and everybody was talking about it, especially these historicals. So maybe you should...
That one I should look for so that I don't find myself on the wrong side of
it. So what I'm saying, even since we are in charge of UBC, I think we should even serialize some of those speeches as part of national guidance.
Yeah.
Mainly during our national guidance moment, because we have it every Thursday.
Okay.
Let us serialize some of those speeches. Because if you ask me what is patriotism, then I would say patriotism is Oranya.
Yes.
That is the definition. You know, we go into dictionary definitions of some of these things. But patriotism is about love for your country. And if you want to show someone who loved his country, then it is Jacob Olanya. Because someone who comes out and say, we are all thieves. We are all what? Thieves. We are all corrupt.
But, Honorable, that said, maybe the last part. Yesterday, there were very many discussions. We were with Honorable Mapenduzi. We spent the night in a vigil at Parliament. The whole night we were there. We left this morning at around 6:30 a.m. and the whole night was discussing, talking and sharing experiences with so many MPs and other people who were there, people praying and dancing and all that, celebrating his life. But a question was asked, as a country, do we protect our national assets in terms of human resource for a better future? And someone then reminded me that, you see, a country like Tanzania, they knew when Mzee Nyerere was in charge, they knew that he would be followed by this person. Then Mwinyi came, then Benjamin Mkapa came, then Kikwete came, then the late Magufuli came. And that at every stage, and even Benjamin Mkapa, even when he was just a journalist, they knew that this one looks and possesses qualities of being a national leader. And there is a way they protect them. Why must we lose someone? At 56, we are losing, you know, the late Mayombo, people like the late Mayombo, the late Aronda, you know. We are losing great leaders at a very young age. Olanya just 57, 56. Aren't we losing as a country? Don't you think we need to have such protection, and how we can, you know, safeguard their lives?
First of all, death is true. And you don't know when it will come. You should know there are people who died before they were born. There are people who die at at birth.
Yeah.
And there are people who die at 100. So actually issue of death, there is no way you can protect someone against death.
True.
But even this issue of flying someone to India, to Germany, we are trying to treat disease, but not what?
Death.
Death, and we know it. But what you are saying is also true. Probably what I can say is, Mwalimu Nyerere, the only way they have protected his death is to continue with his legacy. I think that is the protection I would love. That even when Jacob has died, let us continue with his legacy. I'm happy, for instance, that this time the election of speaker and deputy speaker was smooth. There was no haggling. I think there we protected the what? That legacy. And we should also agree that as a nation, we should all live together in diversity. But you meet that when Honorable Mapinduzi supports something which is NRM, they will say he has been bought. When someone of NRM supports something which is good from the opposition, they will say that one
is a sellout.
A rebel MP.
You are getting me? But I mean, Jacob Oranya stood above that, stood above political parties and all these divisions. So me, I think as national guidance, if we want to protect Oranya, the only thing we can do is to continue with his legacy.
Okay.
And as a Minister of National Guidance, that's why I've told you. If you told me, come and talk to people about values, then I would just speak one of his speeches and say, this is what values mean. And I complete my what? My talk. And that's what we should do.
Okay.
But our democracy will grow up to that extent. Because Tanzania has not been disturbed much like Uganda. But I think with time, if we can get more Jacobs, with time, we shall reach there.
Okay.
Me, I feel hope is not what?
Lost.
Is not lost. But I will miss him as a Minister of National Guidance, and the country is going to miss him. And obviously my party will miss him mainly when it comes to Northern Uganda, because he has united people. And, and this strength we have shown to mourn Jacob, it should not die. That spirit should not die.
Okay.
I asked the Rwandese why they have developed very fast. One of the Rwandese friend of mine, were in some conference somewhere, said, but why are you developing so fast? He said, we realized our potential when we killed 1 million people in 30 days. He said, did you know how many people you cut to get 1 million people in what? In 30 days. It was a lot of energy. So he said, this negative energy, we should transform it into positive what? Energy. And that's how now we are working. Instead of cutting people, we are now developing the what?
The country.
So let us mourn Oranya by saying enough is enough. Let us all be patriotic. Let us all promote national values.
Okay. Thank you. Sarah, you wanted to say?
Yes, I wanted, you know, the comparison with the Tanzania. Tanzania has a systematic structure of cadre identification, development, and placement, and that's why they have smooth transition over time. But when it comes to us here, you know, that is a debate you can't have. It's more or less prohibited. There are no structures.
Do you want to call it survivalism?
Yes, and actually when Charles introduced it, I was like, Charles, please, you need your job.
But we are here discussing it.
I know, but you see, transition, somebody might say, do you have any intentions about my health? Because, and that is something we need to rectify as a nation. We cannot build a nation based on individuals. We need systems, we need structures, we need a range of leaders that are capable of taking Uganda forward. And these leaders exist.
Oh, that's the best one. Honorable Minister says no hope is lost, and you have said the leaders exist.
Yes. So you
Same
are with
page.
me now.
Same page.
You are with the hot
Open the space.
Has she been bought?
Okay, so now we need to shift to, I know we will be definitely, he lived a larger than life, you know, personality in terms of his contribution. Certainly, the Honorable Jacob is someone that we will continue discussing, you know, tidbits about his qualities, about it, his values here and there, whether we like it or not, because, you know, by the time you rise to become the Speaker of the National Assembly or Parliament, as we call it, there is a lot that you have left in the minds of the nation at large. So it's something that we will be discussing, and but we keep praying that God keeps his soul in peace, in really eternal peace. Let's now move to the next topic that is supposed to be the escalating commodity prices, you know, prices of goods shooting up the skies and almost all round, but one most common, the price of fuel, and everyday prices of fuel, you know, are on the increase, and yet it affects, you know, several others. Before we start that debate here, there is a clip that my producer Etiang wants us to run away with. Let's have that clip, and then we go into the commodity prices discussion.
Saying the government of Uganda maybe has made mistakes, that's why prices are increasing. I challenge you to read so that you establish price indices for other countries. When we say prices of these commodities have increased in Uganda, how is it in Kenya? How is it in Rwanda? How is it in Tanzania? How is it in Europe and America?
A technical hitch there. Can we have it replayed?
And I see some of you arguing, saying the government of Uganda maybe has made mistakes, that's why prices are increasing. I challenge you to read so that you establish price indices for other countries. When we say prices of these commodities have increased in Uganda, how is it in Kenya? How is it in Rwanda? How is it in Tanzania? How is it in Europe and America? And I
I think there is a technical hitch we are having. We will bring that that clip later on when the technical team confirms that the machines are proper. I just a bit that I captured. The bar of soap used to be just about 3-4 months, was selling at 3,500. Now it is between 7,000 to 9,000 shillings. That's a price increase of over 100%. Fuel, some petrol stations are now doing 5,300, some 5,290, 270. A liter of cooking oil, just two months ago was going for 6,000 shillings, now is 10,000 shillings plus. A packet of salt has been increased from 800 shillings to 1,200. A kilogram of sugar from 3,500 to 4,200. There are a number of other, you know, vegetables, cereals, and a lot of other commodities. And let me start with the guys who work with the numbers. Honorable Paul and Dr. Muhumuza. Dr. Fred, for starters, with you, what's happening exactly in the market? Is this a good thing? Why is there a correlation between this price commodity or commodity increase with the opening of the economy? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Especially essential commodities that are needed and consumed by the poorest.
Yeah, thank you very much. They are consumed by all the way you have listed them. Some of them actually the poorest don't even consume them. Things like cooking oil. The poorest have been on boil for their lives, and they are comfortable there, and they are living for their lives. The rich have now joined them, having realized that boiled food is the best food on medical advice. But that said, you still need the cooking oil for quite a number of other reasons. But I think the main thing is, as you said, good thing or bad thing. Certainly the prices will always increase. Now what becomes a bother is when they increase very fast, because there people are not able to adapt and adjust themselves. And we have indeed seen inflation has been below 3% for the last several months. So it was only in February that we hit 3.2. The closest we came to 3 was in December last year when we were on 2.9. Then we went back to 2.7, and then we moved 3.2. Now we moved to 3.7. Now that's a faster increase. We usually get these increases resulting from food, because food has a drought effect and sometimes floods and other hiccup logistics. So the central bank will always not be so much bothered if it is food inflation, because they will know that's a wave and it will go away. But they get more concerned if it is what they call core inflation, every other item minus food. And you will now begin to see that the emerging drivers of inflation in March were actually coming out of non-food. So it's no longer cooking oil as such. It is no longer petrol, as of course it drives every other thing. But one of the main drivers was actually furnishings, household equipment, which could be related. And of course the evidence, it's just 1 month that you watch it, so you want to say whether it is the norm or the trend has come up. We imagine some people after opening up earned some money and they wanted to replenish their household items. Some of them could have been sold to survive COVID. Now it's time to restock your TV and your shoes, because also clothing and footwear was another driver of inflation in March. But also the other part was recreation, sports, culture, things that we know were not there before the opening. So after opening, everybody came back. And inflation in this case, you are looking at 12 months ago, what were the prices? And now, 12 months later, what are these prices? But also there is month to month. Month to month between February and March, there was a slight reduction from 1% to 0.8% on a month to month basis. Meaning it may not be picking up that fast. It may have reached a plateau. But of course, the driving factors, one is the opening up. But two, there is that conversation of the external drivers. But this is self-inflicted pain on ourselves, really. I wouldn't want us to begin complaining that price of cooking oil has gone up because we are importing things we should have been producing here. What comes out of Ukraine is sunflower. Really, the northern Uganda should have produced for us sunflower. We even borrowed money and put a vegetable oil project. We have a palm oil project. So what have these things done for us to hold ourselves hostage? We need to go back and do self-reflection and say, did we injure ourselves through the things we have said that JO would not be happy if he was around to find that we injured ourselves through some bad behavior?
Honorable Paul, what is your reading of this situation?
Charles, this is a very interesting event happening in our country. Because if you look at the statistics, as Doctor has explained, there is actually no inflation in Uganda. Because the headline inflation is right now at 3.7 from a reliable source from Bank of Uganda. And that mainly is a result of imported inflation, or what we called forced inflation, like from fuel, things like umeme prices and so forth. But overall, the core inflation has remained basically muted. The Ministry of Finance has really put a target for Bank of Uganda to maintain inflation below 5%. So when the core inflation is at 3.2%, the Bank of Uganda is actually, they will not use the monetary instruments that they have to intervene, because where they're seated is our target is 5%. At the moment it's 3.2, so which is basically manageable. But now when you pull items like fuel, like soap and sunflower and all that thing, you put them together, you'll find that the inflation is at 5%. It's actually has reached actually at 5%, those key ones. Now, the unfortunate thing when you're doing the inflation basket, when you're looking at the commodities of goods and services and how they are weighted, you find that soap, sugar, cooking oil, the weightings are so small, they're inconsequential. And so therefore, when they are doing consumer price index or retail price index, they actually, the weightings they put on the essential commodities, which basically are utilized by our people, is very small. They will put a lot of weight on fuel, for example, and other essential services. So while and this is the contradiction, while the common man is saying now the prices have increased, and it's indeed it has increased, but from where the economists are seated and the central bank is seated, when they do their numbers and they throw these numbers into the model that they use, they find actually the inflation is actually muted. Because if you compare, for example, Uganda right now with the US inflation has moved to 7.9, the highest ever in 40 years. US normally gets almost very small inflation. To do at 7.9, that's they are moved. UK is at 5.5, Brazil is at 11%. Maybe Ethiopia is at 3.6. Kenya is 5.4 and Rwanda 5.8. So Uganda at 3.2, we are actually still in a very comfortable position. And the conversation that we've had with the Bank of Uganda is that maybe when we are doing this consumer price index, we now need to put more weightings on the consumables that are used by the common man. Because normally the weights are given to an item like fuel. Because when there is a slight change in fuel, which has changed, by the way, by 15%, but it has had a ripple effect everywhere. Yeah. Just one item called fuel. And I want to agree with the doctor as well that the inflation we are experiencing now is in the main exogenous, is from imported inflation and forced inflation. Because the first one is the common man has no control over it. If a member is charging you, the prices are going up, you have no control. You have to utilize that commodity. But cooking oil, let's give an example. Because from cooking oil, you have a number of items. You have the bar soap, you have the oil itself, and you have the byproducts for animal feeds and so forth. It has a ripple effect. Now, because of the war in Ukraine and also the COVID which affected the world, most of 80% of the cooking oil we eat in Uganda are imported from Indonesia and from Malaysia, and some of the sunflower from Egypt and Ukraine as well. Now, if we can now domesticate the production, because we have 101 factories that produce cooking oil in Uganda, but all of them are operating below 20% capacity. And yet we have this vast land of ours where we can intermediate and produce enough, how do I call it, oil seeds, which can fill up our factories. And the prices of these oils, cooking oil and soap, will eventually fall. But that is a kind of a strategic intervention.
Do we have capacity to do that strategic intervention?
Yes, because government can actually...
Who can do it?
I'll give you an example. The president, I think, about 5 or 10 years ago, put this item that we want to have to export 20 million bags of coffee by 2020. And there was a lot of strategic investment in the coffee area. Coffee is now our second revenue earner in Uganda, giving us about $600 million annually. So it's a big thing, coffee now. But because we strategically intervened, we said we are going to give seedlings to the farmers for free. We invested a lot of money. I'm a member of the budget committee. We will continue still to put money through UDC to invest in coffee. Just the same way, we should invest in the oilseed sector by giving the farmers of the Greater North seedlings to plant the soya beans, the sunflower seeds, so that those farmers can produce enough grains for the country. And in the next 3 months or 6 months, this country will be almost self-sufficient in cooking oil if we provide sufficient intervention.
Okay, Honorable Mapenduzi, you represent a constituency which is, you know, up north, and your people are the local ordinary people, or consumers, if you like, in this discussion. Do you think they have capacity to afford the increase in food prices, in commodity prices, fuel and all that?
You know, Charles, hearing the two gentlemen, especially hearing my senior brother, Paul Omara, give those statistics, you know, and then looking at what is on the ground, you know, facing
the reality.
The reality. Creates an awkward kind of situation. Because here we are talking about inflation, we are talking about global, you know, economy, we are talking about whatever is happening. And then we also have our own situation as a country, as Uganda. Remember, for the last few years, we have been struggling to reach the middle income status. And the economist will tell you how many people still live outside the money economy. The percentage. So many of our people are still not able to fall within that bracket of money economy, which obviously means so many people still live below poverty line. Recently, there was a study carried out by UBOS. I'm sure you're aware of this, and this was released last year, indicating areas that are still doing extremely bad in terms of poverty indicators. And the report released last year gives a reflection of what is happening even up to now. And then we have this new situation where the same poor man and woman talked about last year is now faced with a situation of struggling to buy salt that he or she was not able to afford last year at 500 shilling. Now they have to think about 1,000 shilling. So it's obviously double tragedy. Now, we know that whatever is going on right now is not just only a problem for Uganda. We know it's almost a global problem. And many economists are talking about the situation in Ukraine, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And it's projected to take a much longer time. But let's look at the impact on East Africa. What we are talking about, a few weeks ago, I was in Nairobi. Actually, we had a lot of telephone conversation with you. I was in Nairobi. Things are tough. The common man and woman are crying the same way our people are crying. We have a similar situation in Tanzania. But where we need to pay a lot more attention as a country is the kind of steps we take
to resolve the crisis,
to deal with, to manage,
or subsidize the crisis,
to manage this situation, so that however bad global it is, at least there are steps taken to create an environment where people struggle and are able to pass through without having too much impact. In Kenya, there are some steps that have been taken where Kenya government has been able to provide some resources to support the private sector, so they are able to manage this situation in a way. In Tanzania, the Tanzanian government has been able to take a step. Actually, President Samia took a decision to make some tax cut. There are a number of commodities that I was looking through the figures. I think she cut about 100 Tanzanian shilling on things like gas and so on. I am not saying.
Tell some information to my brother.
My technical team, though, is telling me that I need to call for a break. I'm going to take that information when we come back from the break.
We do a lot of that, so it's welcome.
It's welcome. Let's go for a break.
When COVID came, it felt like it destroyed everything my mom had built. She was ready to let go of her dreams. But when one door shuts, a window opens. She grabbed her last kamani and took a leap of faith. She refused to give up. So with a bit of daring and grandma's secret recipe, her business was back. And not just bigger, beyond her wildest imagination.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you, or call or SMS 162.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Where does it come from? That thing that makes us Ugandan. That thing that makes us different from everybody else. Where does it grow infinitely? Some say it's in our history, in our culture, and in our hearts, in our warm smiles and vast miles of coffee, dairy farmland, and amazing maize fields. It's in our inherent pursuit to always be better, to never stop growing and glowing. So you see, we are more than just a waving flag. We are a nation of sweat and skills, a nation of ideas and inventions. But what truly makes us Ugandan is our quest to improve the quality of life for Ugandans by creating sustainable jobs, businesses, and improving household incomes. That's what makes us Uganda Development Bank.
Uganda Development Bank, inspiring development.
Pay for your dream phone, Mpola. Get your dream phone today for as low as 1,400 Uganda shillings with free data for a year and pay slowly. All phones come with daily 50 MBs for 12 months. Repayment period is 1 year. Available at MTN service centers and M-Kopa shops.
Mirinda.
Grab yourself an ice-cold bottle of Mirinda Orange at any shop or supermarket near you. Mirinda Orange, the taste that makes you go ORNG.
The Uganda Investment Authority is holding the West Nile Investment Summit in Amvol Village in Nyanavul Angal Town Council Nebi District on Saturday, 9th of April 2022. The West Nile Investment Summit is aimed at promoting and attracting investment projects to domestic and foreign investors for local economic development of the West Nile region. The theme of the West Nile Investment Summit is Mobilization of Domestic Investment for Industrialization, Market Access and Job Creation. The guest of honor will be the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Matia Kasaija. Follow the conversation live on NBS.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Need to send money to a loved one but you don't have enough on your phone? Have you run out of fuel but you don't have enough money? Do you want to pay for yaka or water but have insufficient funds? Or do you want to shop but you don't have enough money? Don't worry, Gatawa with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Welcome back from the break. The break has been hotter than normal, and this is the behind the headlines this April, the 6th of 2022, and we are discussing now the escalating commodities. And in the studio we have Godfrey Kabyanga, Minister of State for National Guidance. We have Honorable Paul Omara, MP of Tuke County, member on the Budget Committee. We have Dr. Fred Muhumuza. We have Honorable Ojara Mapenduzi, Member of Parliament Bardege and the Local Government Accounts Committee. And we have Dr. Sarah Birete. I first thought I was making a mistake. We shall get used with the time. I want to bring, Sarah, I wanted to bring you very quickly before I get the information from the Honorable Mara, and then I bring in the Minister. What is your reading of what is going on?
You know, the economy is breeding, the people are breeding. Let me say the people, because going by the submissions of the economists in the room, we said during the break, if this was a public rally, we would need additional security for them. Because what the ordinary people are going through, first of all, they are battling the devastating effects of COVID. We have had 2 years of lockdown. Some sectors were completely under lockdown. For 2 years, people starving in their houses. Others did not survive. But those who are facing the situation today survived COVID. Right. Although it is still there, but to a minor extent, really. So you have that situation. And then the disruption. Because we should go to where the rising of commodities started. It was before the Ukraine war. It was caused by confusion at the border with COVID testing. Our fuel went up from 3,500 to 5,000 shillings before Ukraine war started. For somebody to sit here and attribute this rising of commodity to Ukraine war, it is a lie to Ugandans. Maybe we lived the effects of Ukraine war before it started, caused by internal disorganization of government departments. A strike at the border drove us into the situation we are in today. Fuel rose to above 5,000. The rise in fuel affects the cost of all commodities. Just Daily Monitor a few days ago published an interview where they had sample interviews with ordinary people in markets, and especially food markets, because we need to look at food inflation. I really want to move away from the academic inflation that is being discussed in this room and is completely detached from the lives of the people. Then
you are going to generate your own figures.
No, I'm coming. I am coming. Because if you look at the double cost of transportation, people bringing matoke from Masaka, they've said they used to transport a truck of matoke at a cost of 750,000 shillings. Now the cost of a truck from Masaka to Kampala of Matoke is 1.5 million. That is double the cost just on transport. That means that the cost, a bunch of Matoke, the cost has doubled. And indeed, Matoke, which used to go for 15,000, is at 40,000. It is more than double. A box of blue soap, which used to cost 45,000, is now costing 70,000.
Wow. That's 30,000 increment.
Yes. Yesterday, one of my staff bought a bar of soap at 11,000 in Nigeria. So when you look at an ordinary person that has spent 2 years of economic disruption, that is, instead of buying soap at 3,500, they now need 10,000. And everybody must use soap. Just even for hygiene. We are continuing to prevent COVID. Wash your hands. So what are they going to wash their hands with? Are you going to tell them popo leaves to prevent COVID? That wash with popo leaves, there is no inflation.
Neem tree leaves. Let's use neem tree leaves
If
now.
anybody used to do ordinary shopping at 200,000, and those are the privileged Ugandans.
Yes, yes.
That shopping you used to do for 200,000, you now need 500,000.
Now you are talking.
You now need 500,000 for the same shopping.
Yeah.
So how do you sit here and tell people there is no inflation, there is nothing, we have gone through our formulas, the waiting list, and there is nothing happening? Really, I think we need to address the concerns.
Economics should be put aside.
I'll give her the facts.
Economics should be put aside and we deal with our reality that we see.
There is no reality without economics.
Now, Honorable Honorable Omara, you wanted to give us information. But the point that Sarah raises, for me, also as an ordinary layman, I am not an economist, and but I think it was Fred who said, even what you are saying is economics. Yeah. That when I go to the market today with 10,000 shillings, and I would buy from the same shelf, item 1, 2, 3, 4 at 10,000, I take 20. Next week when I go with the same amount and I take 15 from the same shop, from the same shelf, that is bad for the economics. And Fred said that is also economics. Now you are saying that that is not and we are saying that is the reality. So what, tell us, you people.
You see what is not economics as he comes in. Yes. You and Sarah are not lay people. So you are not speaking to the layman, you are speaking to yourselves. And I'll give you the facts after, Honorable Man.
Please, Omar, in 1-2 minutes.
I hope he's still struggling to inform me.
I don't know where Charles have taken this thing.
So let him try. I want to hear.
Charles. Charles, what we are dealing with here is about inflation, which is price increases. Now, the institution in this country which is mandated to deal with inflation in the country is the central bank. Now, I have had personal conversations with senior people at the central bank who have actually said that where they are seated at central bank, inflation based on the food baskets that they have done is only at 3.2%, with headline inflation at 3.7%. The target which has been given to them by the Ministry of Finance is 5%. They have not reached there. So where is the problem? The problem is actually fiscal, which now is in line with what Honorable Mapendusi was talking about. Because Bank of Uganda cannot intervene now when the inflation they are seeing is at 3.2, based on the baskets the weightings that they have done. So it comes to the point that Honorable Mapendusi was talking about, is that the government now must now come from the fiscal side to actually say, okay, how much taxes are we charging on cooking oil? How much taxes are we generating from fuel? Yes, how much taxes are on these other commodities? Now, that is where now they can come on the other side and say, okay, I think we should lower taxes on these commodities. And automatically, those prices will drop. But if you are saying now, because when you talk about inflation, we are saying that that the prices must come down, and the person we are looking at is the central bank. But the central bank is saying where we are seated, we don't see it. So they are saying take this problem to the other side.
Honorable, we are looking at government.
Yes.
We are not just looking at
government is now the Minister of Finance.
Can I come in? Because
the Minister of Finance should
information.
sit down and come with proposals, tax proposals, with a deduction on fuel, on major commodities, so that the population can be helped. And that is the fiscal discipline.
That is now subsidy. Is that applying subsidy?
It's not subsidy. It's basically a deduction of taxes. And you need to ask the question is, how much is government getting on a liter of fuel? You really need to find out about that.
What is the latest?
I don't know. I don't know. But find out. I always like to tell the truth. If I don't know, I don't know. But you ask Minister of Finance and say, how much are you collecting on a liter of fuel? You might find it's almost 50% of that money.
Fred, do you know?
No, let's first finish Honorable Mapenduzi. I know. But let's first Honorable Mapenduzi, now that he has received the information, he needs to finish his submission.
Well, to be very honest, Charles, I embrace your information, but they're not very useful. they're really...
First leave it there. I need to bring in the Honorable Minister.
We need national guidance now.
Honorable Minister, you hear what Paul is talking about, issues of taxes, and that is at your doorstep. Is government, now sucking the blood of Ugandans?
First of all, Odongotho, we agree, even government, and we are seeing it, that prices are going up.
Yeah.
But it's not unique to Uganda. Globally, prices are going up. And the facts why prices are going up are known. And that's why there is inflation. And I would also like to inform Sarah that inflation is expressed in percentage. You know, economics is a science.
Yeah.
It's not something which you just describe without what? Without figures. They are one of the issues why these prices are going up globally is because the whole global economy was closed for 2 years nearly, and all the supply chains were disrupted. So even in this country, there was no importation of raw materials, like raw materials for soap and all these other products for 2 years. So the producers only remained with the stock which they already have, because even the whole transport system was also what? Was clogged down. And it is globally, it's everywhere. So now when the economy opens up, and obviously even people are not purchasing as they used to purchase during lockdown. So when the economy opens up, first of all, people are rushing to purchase, and then these people are not producing to capacity, because now some of them had started importing what? Importing materials, they were not yet here. Now we come in again, the fuel which Sarah was talking about. That COVID test, it was there, and it is true, and it is one of the first problems that caused fuel prices to go what? To go up. Now, as soon as we were recovering from that one, there is the Ukraine war.
But Honorable Minister, did we recover from that?
No, recovery, not in terms of price, recovery in terms of supply. You are getting me?
Yes.
Because at least we received more fuel.
True.
That is the recovery in terms of what? Of supply. The Ukraine war immediately started. And the barrel of oil rose up, I think from around $78 per barrel to 180 somewhere like that. It's now reducing. Today when I checked, it was around 138 something per barrel. So the other one, the Ukraine war, found when we already had that problem of ours.
Self-made.
I accept that it can be self-made, but also it was made in order for us to be saved from dying of COVID. And therefore, but probably it came so hurriedly that we got that issue. Okay. So there are so many global issues, and that's why the economist here was talking about the inflation which you have here is somehow triggered by imported what? Yes. Imported inflation. Yeah. That is the biggest problem. But then also, Odongotho, you should know that people should even expect food prices to go up because the weather has betrayed us. Yeah. This weather here, the way you see the rains have delayed, it is even going to be what? Worse. It is going to be worse, and therefore we should prepare.
Okay.
Now, interventions.
Yeah.
The monetary policies, there is no justification now
to intervene.
Because inflation is still
Bank of Uganda should not.
They don't have any justification.
Okay.
But fiscal, the fiscal policies now, yes. Ministry of Finance.
Yes.
Now, so far, Ministry of Finance has said we are not going to introduce new what? Taxes. And as government,
but I'm told they have introduced.
They have introduced.
I'm told there are many new taxes. Some MP was telling me that let us allow this the speaker's funeral to pass, and then we shall give you figures of the guy said. We shall give you figures of what your friend Gobi has introduced, and we need you to ask him whether this is the economics that works.
We shall wait.
That's what the gentleman told me yesterday.
Come on the hot seat.
As a panel, Odongotho,
yes,
we shouldn't discuss rumors. As a panel,
yes,
and an intellectual panel, should always discuss facts, which are already laid.
Yeah.
But we can't discuss rumors.
That's why I'm going to get the evidence.
The tax bill will come to where? To Parliament.
I think it's already
and the tax bill is not
my committee of finance.
Your committee of finance.
Yeah.
Government can propose.
It's laid down in
exactly. Government can propose that we want to impose this tax, and the Parliament says no. That's why you are representatives of the people, and that's why we are lucky that on the committee, the finance committee, economists like Honorable here are there, and you may meet. By the time government wrote this bill, the prices were not as they are now.
Yes.
And now, if they introduce it to Parliament, the MPs will say no. That's why there are so many levels in government. Will say no. I think now we need to reduce the tax on what? Fuel. Because it is the one now triggering this inflation.
Yes.
And then we see what to do.
Okay.
So as people, that's what we should do.
That's not entirely the problem.
That's one of them. That's one of them.
The tax on fuel is fixed.
It's not how much.
It's not moving with the price. It has been around 1,300 and it's still 1,300. So the shift of the price of petrol, diesel, whatever you want to say, from the 3,800, 4,000 to 5,000 is as a result of the barrel price. It has nothing to do with the taxes.
Price per barrel has moved to 100, over 100.
Yes, so when you want to, and Bank of Uganda has been kind enough, it could have been worse if the barrel went up and the dollar went up. So one of the interventions government has done is to make sure you stabilize the exchange rate.
Yes.
So it's not that they're entirely not doing anything.
Okay.
To see that exchange rate stable, you could have been at 5,500 or 6,000
per dollar
if the dollar had gone up to 3.7.
Yes.
Now that's not good for our exporters, but of course they are doing something to stabilize the person. But I'll give one more, just a few facts.
Please go ahead.
Why, for me, I think you and Sarah speaking to yourselves and calling yourselves ordinary people.
When you are not.
You are not. Inflation, it is true, your bar of soap has gone up. Poor people never buy a bar of soap.
They buy a piece.
They buy a piece.
It has also gone up.
It has gone up, but not by the magnitude
actually,
you're talking about.
Even the piece is a lot more.
The slices have reduced.
The slices will reduce, the price will not reduce. This time will not change.
Doctor, a poor man who buys a piece pays more. By the time he buys
but his increase,
he will pay
his
more
increase
than
is going to be from 800 a piece to 1,000 a piece.
It's 1,500.
Yes, but it didn't move like the 5,000 you're talking about. And I'll give you the figures for inflation. Because they really break it down.
First give.
They break it down. Yes. Guru had the highest inflation.
and you would want to understand, but it's always
Gulu
his.
as a district.
Gulu as a town.
Yeah.
The city of Gulu.
Because there's too much money.
It has the highest inflation.
Why?
Followed by Mbali.
Honorable Minister.
Followed by Mbali. We'll get to those.
First, why Gulu?
Now, Gulu has a lot of activity because it is transit into Sudan. So what drove the inflation there is actual accommodation. Is the restaurants, which we will say the poor people in Gulu don't eat in those restaurants. So they won't feel that inflation.
It is us going to eat.
It is you who go there who will feel it. So again, you want to bring yourself as a part of the normal people. But the normal people in Gulu won't feel it. Because they are not eating in the restaurant, they are not sleeping in the hotels.
They are eating from their garden.
They are eating from their garden, they come with their cassava and other things. So when we come to Kampala, so it was Gulu, Mbale, and then Arua. Now the fourth in the ranking is Kampala high income. Kampala is segmented into 3 different groups. So high income is where Andisara lie. Their inflation was 4%.
The two of you.
Their inflation was 4%. So I can hear you.
They go to game.
But you are not talking for the middle income whose inflation was 3%. You are also not talking for the low income whose inflation was 2.4%.
Yeah.
So those are the facts. That when you speak here and say bar of soap and cooking oil, the poor people buy Buendo. And Kendo has not jumped that much. It has jumped by 2.4%, whereas your Kajerikan is up by 4%. So when we say a bar of soap, we are not speaking for the common person. The common person has a different story. But as we've said before, the common people have been in this for long. There are so many items for them they abandon. They walk to work. And they have been walking. You see them as a sea of people walking out of town. So when your fuel prices is up and you're complaining, that's your conversation as a lead.
They're not involved.
They are not a part of you. For them, they have been there. Now, these are the fundamental issues we want to say, leave no one behind. We should have been concerned with them if we really bothered. But now that it is affecting us, we want to use them to attack government policies. No. But if we were really thorough minding about them, when you see them walk from Kampala to Kawempe and to Weyogere,
yes,
that discussion we should have brought on the table.
No.
Many years ago.
Why are they walking?
Why are they walking? How would we help them?
Can I say something? You know, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
No, let me just say something. Yes. You see, these two economists here.
These are the facts.
No, well, those are the facts.
Behind these two economists are so many other economists.
The other one is a collaborator. It's just a collaborator.
These economists have collaborators.
but you know,
I must ask the Bureau of Statistics for crunching those numbers.
No. But Doctor, you cannot explain that by discriminating us and taking us out of the
If you really want to talk for the poor, let's put light rain.
You are applying divide and rule.
Let's put railway transport.
You see, why I wanted to come in. Why I wanted to come in. You see, I very much appreciate the knowledge Doctor is sharing. And we have to hear that.
You have to be particular. Which doctor?
Yes, Dr. Momo. But you see, from a local man or woman sitting under a tree,
yes,
who is hit hard by the situation.
By what?
By the price increase.
The price increase.
Of fuel? This fellow has been walking.
No, well,
soap.
Look here. You see, you are running away from the truth, Doctor.
Yes.
When a poor man or woman decides to abandon even using a taxi,
yes,
to walk,
yes,
it's not a good thing.
That's exactly what I'm saying. We shouldn't have woken up now.
It's not.
They have been working for years. Why did we not come in then?
Well, can you allow me?
You know,
I'm listening.
I know
because I really have to practice. I'll restrain myself.
No,
I'll restrain.
But I'm interested in Guru. Why is Guru high? Me and you need to discuss that.
Please.
Recently I was in Kasese.
Yeah.
Okay. The ordinary person here, what is affecting him or her most is soap and salt. And I was in Kasese recently. This Uganda, whatever, most of the people went into manufacturing soap on their own in the villages there. and a bar of soap from those ones who are manufacturing on their own, local manufacturers, is still at 5,000. And now they are even moving around what? Homes, selling.
Retailing.
Exactly, retailing. And I have even videos here. And people are not feeling it much. It's only us who buy from game and despise that soap that are feeling it. But I'm telling you, those people you call local.
Honorable Minister, is that, do you know the implication? Is that a defense? Is that the do you know the implication of what you are saying? You're in other words telling us we should leave the goods in the shops, not buy from there, and they will lose.
What I'm saying is, as the situation becomes hard, people become innovative. And innovation is part of the issue, which me and you are promoting.
True,
ICT.
True.
So people are becoming innovative.
True.
You know, just to inform the Honorable Minister, you see, I think we need to appreciate our people. Ugandans are extremely tolerant, but also creative. I will tell you my experience. About a week ago, I was in Gulu, and I went to an area. An old woman told me that, look, I now take tea without sugar, not because...
Which is healthy.
Well, you see, you don't need to decide
impose
for
it
them.
on people.
You cannot impose it. So she told me I can no longer afford getting sugar because things are expensive. This is an ordinary woman, an old woman. And then she goes ahead to say, you know, I even cannot afford even tea leaf. As one eye.
Yes.
And so she has creatively, she has resorted to using certain leaves to turn the color of water so it looks like tea and takes it. Now that is very painful because then our people are pushed to the extreme. Not because they want to be there, but because things are unbearable. And so from a proactive point of view, we then need to say, look, is that where we need our people to be? No. And so if they have gone that extent, how do we salvage the situation?
Okay.
That's the main.
But do you think there might also be hoarding?
I have some information for the Honorable Minister and Dr. Mhonja. You know, Doctor dismissed our arguments by saying we are high class and we shouldn't speak for ordinary people, which is neither here nor there. But away from that, let's face the reality of life. Unless you want to say that the people who are outside the money economy, the 38% are okay because they cannot feel the external and internal shocks of the money. After all, they're outside the money. We need to look at the cost of public transport for the working class in Kampala. Somebody staying in Mukono and working in Kampala needs to part with 5,000 shillings in a taxi to get to work. And back, that is 10,000 per day without lunch. How much money are they earning? How much money do they remain with? Even before they come to the shop, they don't even have money. They have lost purchasing power. The lower working class has lost their purchasing power. We need to look at aspects of all commodities rising. Because during COVID, we were able to survive as a country because of production of food. We did not need to import food. But now you have the transportation of food from the rural to the town, doubling the price because of fuel. Then we cannot see and say that the ordinary people are not affected. Where do they buy matoke from? If the transport of a truck of matoke from Masaka to Kampala has doubled, that person who is walking, aren't they going to the same market?
They don't
where the price of matoke has doubled?
They don't buy matoke.
So is that safe? Is that a defense that there is no problem?
Charles, I hear Dr. Sarah very well. And our rural people and the poor have been affected seriously by the inflation we are talking about. I think what is critical is how should we then intervene?
Exactly.
And what I've said is that the central bank won't. Because what if the central bank intervenes, this is what happens. Using two instruments. One is the bank rate. They increase the price for borrowing, which means now it will constrict private sector credit, which means now business people won't be able to borrow money because the money will be very expensive. Secondly, they will use the treasury bills and bonds. They will sap all the money, a lot of money in circulation, because you want the prices, the demands to go down, and then the prices then will go, which means it would be very bad for the economy, which is restarting after the COVID. You really need to have the money supply to be there and for the economy to be buoyant. Now, the other intervention which we have talked about is government should find a way of using the fiscal policy to intervene in commodity prices. You know, like for example, fuel.
Are you as Parliament advising them to do that?
We are going to, after the burial of our brother, we will come back into the House and really discuss these matters. The fiscal policies, what is those fiscal interventions that they can use, instruments they can use to really lower down prices? Now, like the Minister of, I think, Energy is given mandate to deal with the cartels. To regulate. Because if now the doctor is saying the price, the tax on fuel.
Price of fuel.
Yes.
They are controlling it at that level for all the suppliers.
Exactly.
And
government has fiscal policies to deal with this matter. And so that is where we really need to focus.
Okay.
To create that intervention.
I know time is running. Very interesting discussion. And someone called Patrick says, Patrick is from Hoima, he says, the reality is academic figures derail from reality. Sarah has clearly broken down the actual problem the wananchi go through every day. While prices keep increasing, marginal propensity to consume and spend is very low because of low income levels. Price increase has not translated into salary increments. Now, this is even a worse situation. Shelf product price has gone up, and yet Omuntu Wawansi cannot afford to purchase. Let's get out of academic figures and address the reality as it is currently.
What are the other figures? Academic?
But I have a couple of...
all figures are academic.
I also thought about, you see, when I think someone said that, you know, if you reduce, some of the Umutua Wansi have just reduced on what they have to buy.
Yes.
And I was thinking about soap, for example. Soap is not a luxury. We have, look, you know, the shortage of soap can actually lead to a bigger problem in health, sanitation, because Ministry of Health, Dr. Cheng and Dr. Diana and the team are saying 78% of the disease burden is preventable. And that if you put money in preventive care, good clean water, and you know, safe drinking water, clean washing hands with soap, children, women who are delivering and all this, then you reduce the burden on disease increase. And now we are saying that soap that the poor people can do without, which means they are going to get more diseases because they're not washing their...
I'm actually happy. I'm happy to hear the two heads of the Ministry of Health shift from the common narrative of curative to preventive.
And they're trying to do that.
That's a conversation we want to pursue with
And they're trying to do that.
But secondly, if you reduce the tax, say, on fuel, how are you going to even go and ramp up the preventive health care? We've just laid off the doctors who helped us in COVID because we have no money. Now, again, you want to slash the government budget? So you begin, that's the economics. You begin to say, where am I getting it right? And there will always be no right, no wrong. You balance.
Yes,
we shall not go out of the figures, those figures. We shall use them properly to analyze the situation. For instance, let me tell you, and this price of soap is not about to go down because there is low production of palm oil in Malaysia.
And prices have gone up.
And prices have gone up there. Low production of palm oil in Brazil, where we're getting it. Now, as cabinet, we are looking at
Honorable,
how we
what
can.
happened ours in Karangara?
I will come to that. Ours in Karangara can only support the industry 25%. It can only supply our industry to produce at 25%.
We need those Kasese fellows to help us. What are they using?
Now, what the president is directing now, we should now try to exploit the Congo production because it is near. And Congo is producing a lot of what?
Palm oil.
Palm oil. So that instead of thinking about Brazil now, we look at what? At Congo. They're exporting it. So we need to look at that near market. Then another intervention is, he has now directed that we should now fast track the issue of planting more palm oil on Sango Bay and Vuvuma.
No, let's do sunflower. It's faster.
And then sunflower in the north.
Sunflower in the north,
Exactly.
3 months only,
Exactly.
and you have the oil seed.
Let's do
And
sunflower.
sunflower in the
And
north.
soybean.
Actually, the last cabinet, that's what he directed. And we looked at the figures, again, which Sarah doesn't like to hear. If we get the palm oil, Sango Bay, Vuvuma, and sunflower in the north, still, we shall only supply our soap industry at 65%. So we shall still need 35%
to import.
To import.
Yes. Is it better than importing 80%?
Exactly. So that is an intervention which now we as government are doing. I think you can clap for us.
Good. Yeah. I will clap.
Let's do sunflower and simsim in northern Uganda.
Yes.
We'll
exactly.
I like that. I like that. There are a number of comments that have come. I'm just going to sample just a few. Rameka Masiko, president of Uganda Young Patriotic Movement, says, however much there are global factors contributing to the escalating prices of essential commodities, these prices started skyrocketing way back, even before the prices of raw materials on the international market changed, not even Russia-Ukraine war. Nicholas says, good evening panelists and viewers. I wish to blame the government for all this mess. How do you explain a failure to have fuel reserves full? That's Nicholas. Dennis says, how sure are we that the inflation index of Uganda is genuine? You hear that, Dr.
I'm waiting for their alternative figures. As he said, we cannot speculate.
Galileo, who was that who said no evidence, no research, no right to speak?
Yes.
So Dennis, there you are, that bring us your alternative figures. You just cannot stop others from using the figures they know. You must have an alternative. And then
the ones that are not academic. 1, 2, 3 are academic.
Wakoli Bosco from Bulambuli says, okay, this is on the earlier discussion. He says, Honorable Jacob Olanya was really a great leader, and do request that may all my fellow countrymen and women emulate his legacy. Thank you, Wakoli. Brian Emmaus Center in Butanza, Luero says, personally, I admired the way Jacob has been transacting his business in Parliament. He has indeed been a great leader that this country could count on. Rest in peace. Kansime in Kampala says, we are also here mourning Right Honorable Speaker Jacob Olanya. Last week's show was so good, and I'm wondering if the 11th Parliament will invite Captain Babu to carry out an in-house orientation. That's for Parliament, Kansime, but they watch this show, and I'm sure they have got that message. Collins Mukisa from Chira says, the person who said that there is no inflation in Uganda, he doesn't stay in Uganda, or else he is among the middle class. For the middle class in Uganda, they even don't know how much fuel costs in Uganda today. That is from Collins Mukisa from Shira.
They have government cards.
Then James from Luboa says, we must increase production capacity of the citizens to boost their aggregate demand capacity instead of the just indiscriminate rising of taxes and disorganization. I think it means raising of taxes. And then Olwe Kenneth from Nakawa says, I strongly agree with Dr. Sarah and disagree with the two economists. The escalation in commodity prices started with the border issues that saw the price of fuel rise in the major cause.
They have not denied.
Is the major cause of this.
Denied on that.
Now you see, Sarah, I think knows her audience. That's why she was telling you that if you were in a public rally, you would need more security.
By the elite. The lower people would understand.
But Sarah, I mean, Honorable Kavianga, there is someone here who talked about the middle class not knowing the price of fuel. Are you the decision makers up to the task of fast tracking the solutions to this, when we know that perhaps many of our decision makers, including MPs, have their fuel, catered for? For us, we suffer the burden, but our decision makers can take their own time. How long will these interventions take?
Honorable Doctor, this issue of fuel of MPs, ministers being catered for, we pay for it still. If they gave me fuel of 3 million, you think I hate saving part of it? Do I hate it? Saving part of it? And probably even giving you 10 liters out of that.
But is it easier for you to detect the increment in the fuel
because we also go to the fuel station to fuel. And whether it is on the card, whether it is in your pocket, you pay and you feel it.
Okay.
You're getting me?
Yeah.
So we are also feeling it. But I think as a nation we should look at a way, all of us collectively, and say, what do we do? Because there are global trends which we cannot ignore. They are there. Yeah. Yesterday, actually, fuel went down slightly because United Arab Emirates intervened. And because it has power, the fuel, I think, went down by $1 if you follow the trend. Yes. But for us as Uganda, we don't have that power. We can't control it. So now we need as a nation to see what do we do to assure either the fuel prices stabilize where they are or they reduce. And it is a collective responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay. Collective. Like we are on this talk show, for us at ICT and National Guidance, we are recording. And now we have a system. Every talk show like this one, we distribute the comments to other ministries that there was a talk show. And these were the comments from the public. That's why we even have a citizens interaction center. We have a digital media unit. And now it is not business as usual. And that's what I would like to assure you. So that we capture all these. And then we are coming to Parliament. Because your MPs, why we bring that budget to Parliament is to get your input. You, the representative of the what? The representatives of the people. And I think all those stages, by the time they end, we shall have got a solution collectively. Okay. And me, I feel that's what we should do. Okay. Even civil society, they can come and criticize, it's okay. But let them criticize and give solutions.
But we also provide solutions.
Yes, they should provide solutions. But someone just criticizes. Fuel has gone up. Government has done nothing. So, what do you want the government to do? Because you are the experts. You are telling the economists here that their figures are fake. Bring yours so that we compare and take a decision. Me, that's what I believe in. But not just criticizing government, you are not giving any alternative.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that.
Can I say something?
Yes,
yeah. I like the way the Honorable Minister put it. And from just right from the start, I think his ministry is doing a good job.
Thanks.
And it's commendable. I only wish that the kind of comments you are giving would come from some of your colleagues also. But the other thing which is equally important is that when the citizens offer their opinion, how much those opinions are taken and how actions are built based on such opinions are very key. You were telling Sarah that the civil society has a role to play and they need to come in. Yes, the civil society has a role to play, but how much do the people that the civil society have to talk to, the citizens have to, how much do they pick from what is said? We lack flexibility, we lack, there are many things that could be corrected if different key players would have the goodwill to do it. So just as you're putting it from a very positive point of view to encourage all of us, it would also be very important that the key decision makers, the people who drive the vehicle, have to understand and be very accommodative and take every criticism positively so correct actions can be taken.
Just one thing. Honorable Minister, I did not say the figures are fake. I said they are detached from reality.
Okay.
And the second correction I want to make is that on this show, we provide solutions. We don't just criticize. Yes.
That's most important. Thank you so much, Sarah and Honorable Mapenduzi. I thought that we would have time to go into an in-depth discussion on the what has been achieved from the Dubai Expo 2020. It ended last week, and the end saw Uganda taking charge of the Innovation Week, which was an ICT-based opportunity task. And but since we are now running short of time, we will have a more detailed discussion. But I wanted, Honorable Minister, this is your sector. What did Uganda achieve? We had so many, activities starting from, was it October 2nd when Uganda went and started participation? And of course, I saw you in Dubai, and you had very interesting discussions on what opportunities Uganda should pick, especially the young people in the digital world, in ICT, innovation, and all this. So what are the benefits that are likely to accrue out of this?
Thank you very much, my brother Odongotho. And indeed, the Dubai Expo should be a topic where we should come here.
We will definitely discuss it
and analyze
soon.
it very well, because it might bring solutions to some of the problems we have at the moment. Obviously, for the Expo, you go there to brand and market your country, to showcase what investment opportunities are in your country, what you can offer in terms of business, in terms of tourism and the like. And we really put up a very good show in terms of what opportunities we have in the agriculture sector, mainly the mining sector, and the ICT sector. And it was really wonderful. And these were over 190 countries, and it was well attended. So at the end of the day, we have now money through Uganda Investment Authority. We have now information that the total business contacts and deals we made now total to around 7 trillion, $2.2 billion around there. Now, what is needed right now is forum. Because after the expo you just discuss, negotiate. Sometimes you end up going into MOUs. Sometimes you end up making contacts, and then you follow up on MOUs. But already, since October, there are very, very important investors who have started coming, like the one of Elite, I think it's called the Elite, who want to invest in tea growing. They came immediately, and they toured the tea corridor of Chigezi and Kole, and they are ready to invest a lot of money. So it's now upon the government and the private sector, because normally government is just facilitating the process, but these people want to partner with the private sector. The Innovation Week, which was mainly manned by ICT, we had several contacts, and here for us, our main concern is the business processing outsourcing hubs and then the data centers. And obviously, we had very, very fruitful discussions. One of the most important discussions we had was with the MasterCard. They have a payment platform, an international payment, but they are already working with the Equity Bank to assist the rural areas in finance management. So we thought if we partner with them, it will even be easy for us to complete the development of the parish model management information system and the payment platform. So we also made contacts, obviously, with one of the providers of the data centers. They have the biggest data center in the United Arab Emirates. We really want to build a big data center where we can collect our data and keep it ourselves. Because data is business. If anybody wants the data, he should come to us and we give it to him. But right now, our data is still kept in different places, so someone can access it even without our knowledge, and those ones who keep it can even sell it. So we want now to build our own data center. And obviously the business, the BPOs, we feel it's the way forward to solve unemployment of the youth, so that really the youth can be engaged. So I think when we next come here, I will ask you kindly to also invite someone from Export Promotion Board, because they were the coordinators of the Expo.
Yeah.
And then we come and explain to you what we have achieved as a country. But what we need is follow-up. And there is another Expo in Japan. And I want to
That's 2025?
Yes, 2025. I want to write to the Prime Minister that we should start organizing even tomorrow. Because if we can sell our country, and we all love it, because this time in Dubai we demonstrated patriotism, and the only way, I have told you, the only way we can make Orania happen is for being patriotic. When we go to the Expo, we should all talk good about our country.
Okay.
Tourism also, we got so many contacts, and I think we are going to move. So I will give you the figures when we come back, Sarah.
Sarah, the minister has promised to give you the figures.
I'm looking forward to that.
You are looking forward. But maybe in terms of maybe asking, starting from the other side, I'm going to give just 1 minute each. We are now going beyond time, but a comment from each of you, given what the Honorable Minister has said, and for the MPs, I know that at least they all participated in the Expo. The late Olanya actually went and led a big delegation to the Expo in terms of exploring and exploiting the opportunities that are available, especially for the young people. Dr. Muhumuza, do you think that such activities and where Uganda participates are good? They go along. Do they go a long way in opening up opportunities? Venturing into new markets for our country. How do we utilize them?
Yeah, I think going out there and making statements and engaging people is good. As he said, follow-up is going to be very critical because many times the people get confused, but when they come here, what do they find? And this is why we're saying, even as we have a conversation on inflation here and there, we should not forget we have our underlying conditions. The issue we have said, the people have been working. If a person wants to come and invest in Uganda and find such poor people, they will think again. You have not told them that the average income over Uganda is 200,000. Literally that is 7,000 per day. This guy would think twice. So we have a lot of things to sort out on our own side. And that said also, there were prices that went down. Data bundles went down. Price of potatoes went down. Green pepper went down. And these are foods that those people eat and which we don't eat, me and you. So, but that's the broader picture. What is the transmission mechanism? But also, we also don't need to forget that the global dynamics are changing. Because of inflation being high in Europe and Western countries, they are raising their interest rates.
Yeah.
Now, when they raise their interest rates, money begins to flow there. So some of the people who were possibly planning to come to Uganda, those dynamics may speak to them and say, hey, wait a minute, where do I take my $17 million? Uganda or the US, where the rates have gone up? So we need to do a lot of grounded follow-up. We need to clean up ourselves. That the transmission mechanism sometimes in Uganda, you do a policy and the response is very sluggish, if at all. Yeah. That's why I'm saying, even if you remove the price on the tax on fuel, don't expect that to go down. Prices, some have come up, they won't go down. So we need to do a lot of follow-up, but beyond the follow-up, the economics must work.
Exactly. That's a nice one.
There are no two ways around it.
Charles.
Yes, the Honorable Paul.
Charles, economics is complex. you just don't get emotional with it and win. Now, Charles, a quick one on Expo. Uganda, not very long ago, I mean, tourism became our #1 revenue earner, almost giving us over $1 billion, a year. But it went completely down. I was looking at a recent map. All of the East and Central African zone, the countries, they have removed COVID tests.
Yeah.
It's only Uganda, which is an island, where you require this PCR or something. I would want to request my sister to remove that thing.
Yeah.
So that people can freely fly into Uganda. COVID is actually disappearing, so that we can get more tourists coming in. The second one on the matter that we have discussed. Charles, what we really need to do is let us domesticate some of the things that we keep on importing. One of the core things that the president is dealing with is agro industrialization.
Yeah.
Why don't we focus on that? And Honorable Minister, I'm happy that we are looking at oil seeds. The Greater North, I'm actually a key player in the oil seed sector.
Yes, I've seen.
And what is happening is that we are looking for grains everywhere we can't find. The prices have gone up, but even when you look for it, you don't see it. And yet we have 2 rains in Uganda. So what is stopping us from really putting the money there, Honorable Minister? We're going to have that conversation so that the Greater North can produce all what we can do. We can intervene and have the oil seeds available in the country. And of course, imported inflation, we have to deal with it for a while. The global dynamics have changed. A friend of mine said they were importing an item from South Africa. It has actually taken 2-3 months.
Wow.
And there's actually no shipping vessels available, even from Mombasa going into Asia. So there's turmoil in terms of the value chain systems, and which actually most of the price for cement has gone is now between 35 and 45,000 shillings a bag, because the consumables that is required for producing cement is not available, and we have to import them.
Wow.
So those are the new dynamics that we must be confront in the months to come.
Actually, your friend, the boss of Private Sector Foundation, Stephen Asimwe, just sent a message that Charles, Honorable Paul Omara is a big producer of seed oil, sunflower, and ask him to make a comment on the same, because we are looking forward to that. So you just picked it out from...
So our cry as producers is that we don't have enough grains in the country. And we have a lot of farmers in the value chain, but because the seeds are not available, the government intervention is not there, the production of oil seeds is actually low. The big ones just use outside crude oil and they import them here. Because of the value chain is tough, the prices must what?
Must go up.
Must go high. Yeah.
Okay, Honorable Mapenduzi. You know, effect of Expo, what we can do with it, what do you...
Maybe before I talk about that, I would like to pick...
In 1 minute.
Yes, I would like to pick from where my colleague, the Honorable Omara, stopped. I think we need to deliberately turn our eyes towards the north.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I know what you're doing.
Yes.
I always follow. And
yes.
I only wish deliberate efforts would be made to support.
Yes. Which has not happened as much.
Because we would stop talking about the prices of cooking oil and
soap and all the other things.
That would go.
Yes.
So I think that is something we need to pick. But Charles, the Dubai Trade Expo was a big opportunity for Uganda. Fortunately, I was able to go. I think our country, Uganda, did a good job. There were some concerns that we raised at the start. We were concerned about the level of preparation at the start, which fortunately a lot of improvement took place. If we want to attract people to our country, we need to market ourselves.
Yeah.
We need to get out there. And for me, I think it was a good decision to, if by today we are talking about getting opportunities of about 7 trillion. That's good for this country.
Yeah.
It is good. And so we should be able to make good use of what we have learned and actually prepare a lot more than we did.
Yeah.
So we are able to attract, we are able to meaningfully begin to engage. It's when looking at the different countries, how they prepared right from the start. and I felt bad that we were talking about preparing in the 3rd or 4th month, and this thing took 6 months, and the most serious people came in the first phase. The place was flooded. Serious business people. I think we missed some opportunities there.
Yeah.
So next time we should do a lot more, better, and I think we should also begin to position ourselves now. How do we also begin to build an environment where people begin to think about coming for a trade show in Uganda? There is Dubai, there is Japan, but what about the Uganda one? What do we need to do?
Magnitude of investment.
Yeah,
it is over
but you know, Charles, one other problem we have.
Budget.
One other problem we have in this country, that we fear getting into
ambitious.
For those who went to Dubai, they saw the level of investment, and then people would start saying, how much did these people? We should not be talking about how much. We should be talking about what do we do to attract the world here. That is the question.
Yes.
Yeah. Because when we begin debating about how much they have spent, and then we begin to live in fear. We even want to stop thinking about it because we think it's impossible.
That's a good attitude. That's a good mindset.
Yes.
You need to teach mindset change.
We will talk.
We should invite him.
Yes. Finally, Sarah.
Yes, let me build on what Honorable Mapenduzi has concluded with. Dubai is 50 years old.
Yeah.
And
Younger
they
than
use
us.
it, yes, and for us we are going to celebrate 60 years of independence. And they used oil revenues to build the country that the whole world admires today.
Turning around the desert.
Yes, we have done our final investment decision on oil. In 4 or 5 years, oil will be out. What are the plans? If we have anything to learn from Dubai, we should look at investments for this country that will be long-lasting and will attract the whole world to Uganda. But I don't know whether we have the governance and fiscal behaviors to achieve that. But we have the same resource that Dubai uses. On the Expo, again, I think I transited through Dubai on Sunday. I always find a challenge with the Uganda we market and the actual Uganda that exists.
Yeah.
When you arrive at the airport, and I'm sure all of us here have traveled to several countries, small, big, be it in East Africa, be it in this side and in Tanzania. Zanzibar, which is the smallest airport, I think, in East Africa. When you arrive at the airport, like the COVID testing now, the requirement for PCR, which other countries, some other countries are doing, including Dubai. You go with your passport, with your PCR test, go to one center, examined and cleared. But when you reach Entebbe, you find a line almost at the tarmac. Where is this, where is that? You spend 30, 40 minutes there. Before you reach immunization. If our requirement as a country is a PCR test within 72 hours, why do you put multiple lines? Let somebody come to one counter with their travel documents. Be it yellow fever card, be it COVID, stop the lines that really distract people. When you, just the experience of Sunday, we were waiting for luggage. We spent 1 hour. We arrived alone. There was no other flight. Spent 1 hour standing around the conveyor belt for luggage. It stopped twice. It was non-function. So when you go to Dubai, you are competing with these international investors. If they come to Uganda and have this experience from the airport, can't they even check out of the airports and go back? I mean, what image did you create? Then how do we transact business beyond the airport? We know our behaviors, the unethical conduct, all that goes on. This is what is failing Uganda. It is not just about marketing. Can we clean up the country?
But what rules the city?
Clean up the country. Honorable Minister, that is something you need to take up.
All that is marketing, you know. Even cleaning up the country, what Sari is talking about, lines at the airport, all that is marketing.
Yeah.
We have to sort out it. But as a ministry, for us, we want this country to be the innovation powerhouse of Africa.
Yeah.
And we shall work on that. And I like what you have said. That's feedback now from the citizens.
Thank
and mainly Sarah, for her, she's an ordinary citizen. So, as she has said, who takes coffee.
And it's potatoes whose price has gone down.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister, ICT, National Guidance, in charge of National Guidance, the Honorable Godfrey Kabyanga. Thank you very much, Dr. Fred Muhumuza, economist. Thank you very much, Honorable Paul Omara, who is MP for Tuke County. And thank you very much, the Honorable Mapenduzi Ojara, together with the Council, Sarah Birete. We will definitely need to arrange time and celebrate the achievement of a PhD is not easy. So we will definitely partake of this, once we are done with this funeral on Friday. But I want to thank so much my team, the producers and the production team, the entire technical team that makes it possible for this show to come your way every Wednesday from 10 to midnight. Thanks a lot. And as we end, I just want to say that Friday is is the day that has been designated for the burial of the departed Speaker of Parliament, former Speaker, the Right Honorable Jacob Olanya, and he will be buried at his home in Omoro district, and so Lalogi is what it is called. So to those who are traveling, travel safe, and we will go to see him and to say farewell to him. We keep praying for his soul and praying for strength.
And it is a public holiday.
For the family. And government has declared the day a public holiday. So the day after tomorrow will be a public holiday to allow all of us who would want to go and see him off do the same. Otherwise, God bless you all. God bless his soul. Thank you very much and good night.
When COVID came, it felt like it destroyed everything my mom had built. She was ready to let go of her dreams. But when one door shuts, a window opens. She grabbed her last command and took a leap of faith. She refused to give up. So with a bit of daring and Grandma's secret recipe, her business was back. And not just bigger, beyond her wildest imagination.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you or call or SMS 162.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
This weekend on UBC.
Traditionally, when I go and I'm introduced by my lady to her parents, you guys consider it a marriage?
Yes, it's a marriage. It's a traditional marriage under the law. Customary, you pay the dowry and the parents have got to know you and told you our daughter is getting married. This is what we want for you to have as a wife.
And
so if you fulfill that, you're married. However, you must go an extra mile to have this marriage registered.
We have more women that have gone through that and they're at home and they've not taken the further step you're talking about.
Most of us as women, the moment